Hey everyone, this is Paul McManus, the host of Million Dollar Producer, and I am here with my special guest, Matt Zagula. Matt Zagula is the author of the Forbes best-selling book, Smart Retirement, The Strategic Movement Around Retirement Taxation. And today, typically I host these podcasts myself, but today I have my partner in crime, my business partner, Joanne Hanane, who has flown into our Zoom room all the way from Hawaii to help me to host today's episode. So welcome, Matt, and welcome, Joanne.
Aloha, everyone.
Aloha. And, you know, Joanne and I have had a chance to get to know Matt over the past couple months pretty well. And even though we've never met in person, and we're in 3 different geographies, what we've done is we've been on Zoom over the past couple of weeks, typically with a glass of wine. So this episode of Million Dollar Producer is going to be filmed with wine in hand. Do both of you have the appropriate beverage?
Is this acceptable? What about you, Matt?
It is.
I don't have wine, but I've got a pretty healthy something here.
That's his drink. He's got tequila.
That's going to do. So I want to start off with what really stood out to me about who you are and what your story is. And we'll get into different topics, but the first thing that really stood out to me was this thing I heard from one of our mutual clients about you having contributed to creating over $1 billion of revenue for a very prominent insurance company. Can you tell us what that's all about?
Yeah, you know, there was a group of advisors that I was I coached with Dan Kennedy. And the company, which was a distributor of product, they weren't a manufacturer, meaning they weren't an insurance company, they were a marketing organization. Mm-hmm. When our time was done, we didn't break up well, you know. So the reason that's a verified number is it was in the let's just call it the divorce paperwork. How about we say that? When we were divorcing and ended up in the courtroom, that was their number, not mine. So you know, the sales growth was astronomical. The folks were fantastic. And I think that that's what happens whenever you have the right people, you have a well thought through process, and you have people who are fully committed to learning and following that process. So yeah, you can have extraordinary results. And that group was about a group of 80. So it wasn't like some, you know, multi hundreds or thousands of people. That was 80 motivated people doing the right things, and they did it, man. You know, it was them, but they were fully participating, and they were in it, and they weren't fooling around, and they had astronomical results.
Over what period of time was that?
That would have been the sales growth was benchmarked year to year, but I would say that really was a 2.5 year. 2.5 year period that we saw that kind of growth. I mean, some of them were unbelievable. We had one advisor that sticks out, and he was just the quietest guy. One time he walked in, and I was almost looking at him like, "Who are you?" You know. And finally, he sat down and he goes, "You know, when I started, I was doing about $12 million a year of annuity business with also with Safe Money Asset Management (AUM). So his combination was bringing in $1 million of new assets a month." And he said, "You know, I'm at 96 million." And I kind of paused, and I went, "What?" You know, so I had to go verify it, because I'm like, is he BSing me, or is that legit, right? So I go, and sure enough, he was that big, and I was shocked, you know. And it gets to be one of those things where, you know, I'm developing concepts, I'm developing sales systems and processes, and there are people that are literally implementing them way better than I did, and having bigger monetary jumps in their productivity than I had in my own, by leaps and bounds in that case. So
that to me, that's just striking. You know, over $1 billion of increased revenue. I mean, I guess maybe I need to reframe this podcast as the $1 Billion Producer Show. You know, you've just broken.
Yeah, you know, million here, million there, and it starts to add up over time.
You know, in your role, working with these 80 people over a few years, creating that kind of growth, in hindsight, what would you attribute? I mean, what were those lessons learned? I mean, that's significant. What were some of those insights that you gained as a result of helping them achieve that?
I think it's really important for me to say that it was Dan Kennedy and I that did it. We worked side by side, and we're a very unique blend, and we became very close. I consider him a close friend, and he's a client of mine and a wonderful human being. Somebody he's on the short list of 5 on my left hand that I would call if I really needed help, and I feel very confident he would be one that would jump right in and help me. He's just a wonderful human being. He is a little prickly, like he positions himself. That's not a lie. He can be a little difficult. But, I think that if you had to create a hit list, it's number one, know what you're hunting for. If you don't know what you're hunting for and you're using Social Security as your hook on Monday, and on Tuesday you're going to do premium financing, and at the end of the week it's going to be, the Tarzan plan or this plan or that plan. And, I don't, those, if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. So if you suffer from shiny object syndrome, you're going to be a failure. You need to understand who you want to work with, and then you have to have a methodical approach to the yeses, and you've got to have a methodical approach to the nos. And if you don't do both of those, you'll never be as successful as you could be, because the yeses are the easy ones. That's what we all want. But the real $1 million solutions, folks, is going to be in how do you get the no's to realize they made a mistake about you and turn them into a yes. So it's a multi-step process in understanding that. But first and foremost, if you don't know who you're going after, you're never going to get to where you need or want to be.
You mentioned Dan Kennedy as part of the reason that you were able to accomplish those results. And as we've talked about, Dan Kennedy is, I've studied many marketers and whatnot, but Dan Kennedy is my current guru of choice. I mean, so he's, I think, brilliant. Haven't had the chance to meet with him in person, but I've studied his courses and concepts, and I think he's a master marketer. So if you would, give us a little bit of the backstory about how you got to know Dan Kennedy. I hear that there was a Bentley involved.
Yeah. So, anyways, before of course, I was a long-time student at Dan's. I basically invested in every GKIC product that came to the line that he sold. To understand not only his copywriting approach, his marketing funnel approach, his mindset approach. He really is brilliant. I mean, it's not as far as guru of choice to study, he's a good study.
Sure.
A lot of advisors don't feel that these direct response marketing guys can translate into our industry because of their heavy use of testimonials. I think that the reality is that the program that I did with Dan and the records thereafter prove that that's incorrect. I mean, you can certainly translate direct response marketing techniques into extremely profitable financial results for a financial advisory firm. The biggest thing is I think it's just not direct response like selling a George Foreman grill. That's what the mind says. It's a very elegant approach to filtering yeses and nos and being very persistent in your follow-up. So bottom line was I was looking at developing an online program, developed a relationship with Frank Kern. And Frank and I are, he's a great guy. I paid like everybody else to meet him. I went out. We were about the same age. He's more crazy than I am, but I'm crazy. So we had that in common. It all started at a Mexican restaurant, ended up at a Bentley dealership. There were details in between that are under lock and key that I'll never share. And the Bentley got shipped back to my place in West Virginia. And I didn't really remember it supposed to come, but it did. It was a lot of confusion. And long story short, I had landed this opportunity with this large marketing organization to do some coaching, and realizing that this was going to be a year or multi-year deal, I felt that I needed a solid top-level marketing professional to work beside me. I wrote Dan a 6-page letter that shared a bunch of details and the picture of the Bentley, and it was written in a very story-like way. And he said, "That's interesting." And he faxed back to me and said, "I'll meet you at this casino." And we met at a casino, and And we sat there and talked about what this was all about and decided we were going to partner up on this venture, and we were exceptionally successful at it.
Well, that's very impressive. Now, you're also the author of this fine book here, Smart Retirement, published by Forbes. What is Smart Retirement? Why did you write it? And what is the master plan?
Well, that's an interesting book because it is a true Dan Kennedy byproduct of something that he has said time and time again, with my own personal twist on it. And one of the things that he always says is that a book can be your very best salesman in print. Mm-hmm. And in his context, what he means is that when you are the author of a book, you are taking an authoritative position on the subject matter contained therein, right? It's the word author actually is in the word authority. It's pretty congruent. So, here I wanted to do something different where I made the centerpiece of building authority to concept, to the whole idea of strategic movement around retirement taxation, smart retirement, the strategic movement around retirement taxation. And then I did what, most advisors don't feel they have time to do or want to do. I went to the patent office and I got it trademarked for real. And then I got it registered for real. And then I created
more than just the TM that I'm fond of using. You actually got a real R.
Yeah, I actually really did it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Not
nice.
That thing you do.
On my keyboard, I think it's
wait, hold on. I'll give
it
proof. Hold on.
Command 2 for TM. But I use Mac.
It's real. There it is. So,
very nice.
But and the reason is that I think that especially with advisors that I work with a lot of advisors, they get tired. Everybody's pitching them, oh, you're going to do this, I'm going to double your production. I'm going to do that and double your production. It's a lie, So what I wanted to do is I really wanted to methodically do things step by step by step, and I didn't want to make the authority transfer to me individually. I wanted to transfer it to the concept of this is the greatest political window of opportunity that we will ever have as advisors to teach and get behind and be recognized in our communities as the tax-aware advisor to go to. And it is such a powerful positioning that there is no more powerful positioning that anyone can have than to be the person in their community that can be that tax-aware advisor, because tax planning is a prohibited type of positioning, but tax-aware planning is not. And I know this because I've tested this in wording with directly to FINRA in presentations and things that tax planning is for CPAs and attorneys, and that's the truth, and that's the right way that it should be. And no advisor should hold him or herself out as a tax planner. They're not. But we have to be tax aware in the advice that we give. The understanding of tax deferred to taxable to tax free. Everybody knows that diversification is important until it comes to those three things, and then we're overloaded. So it's just about education, and then it's about preaching the merits and value of tax diversification. And it's powerful positioning. So I wrote a book so that someone could give that out, get the mind, momentum in that direction. So instead of someone had to go to a prospect and try to pull them, they could just get behind them because they were already going that way, because they were already feeling that way, because they've already done the studying for themselves and started a belief system that was true. And that's what that book's about. And I've done a really good job there because I don't get people calling me. And I've got thousands of books that get distributed every month to hundreds of advisors around the country who give it out. And the success stories are pretty astronomical. We know that this year alone, it's attributed to, so far, since since April, $70 million of new business, which is pretty good because we asked the guys to put the cases that they attribute to the book in there. Now, some of them won't. Sure. I know that there's a couple that were giant cases and they don't want anybody to know that they did it in the community because they're running, whatever. But it's been very successful as a salesman in print in front of an advisor who wants to talk about tax awareness and tax diversification in this unique political window of opportunity that we now have.
That's fantastic. And that, I think that was immediately what I loved about first meeting you, but then also seeing what you stand for in the messaging, the positioning, as you said, that you're getting out into the world, is that, as you know, Joanne and I, we focused our LinkedIn business development efforts for advisors around the idea of tax mitigation, reduction, some sort of tax going down. And we've had tremendous success in targeting qualified prospects, whether they're high income earners or affluent business owners, and bringing them to the conversation. And where we find that people don't do as well, it's not getting the conversation, it's how do you move a prospect, if you will, from that initial interest in conversation to now being a client. And the gap that I saw before we met was that they lacked this type of ammunition. They lacked this type of authoritative ammunition because, as you said, it's like, putting this book out, very specific, all the bullets that an advisor needs to make the case, but not themselves. In the Forbes published book makes the case for them, right? And so it's not pushing anymore. Now it's starting to pull people into saying yes, because it just makes sense.
It's Dan Kennedy's magnetic marketing, It's a lead magnet that really its job is to pre-indoctrinate the prospective client with the concept that being smart and looking to strategically move around retirement taxation, probably a good idea. So, if you get somebody, whether that's 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% of the way there, you're not pulling them along and them building up sales resistance. What you're doing is instead getting behind them to try to show them the steps of implementation rather than trying to sell and convince them. They've sold and convinced themselves. Now, it is important to understand that the book opens up a few different planning options. One of them is life insurance, which is a wonderful product if it's properly positioned. But the other is, simple things like Roth conversion or funding a Roth or Roth 401k. It's just being aware of more tax-free planning opportunities. So you don't want to get pigeonholed into one solution. You want it to be to the discretion of the advisor. So I really carefully tried to do that. When I talk about my own plan, I share with them exactly what I do in the book, but I almost become their case study example.
Sure.
Instead of being this authoritative person, I'm the test dummy, so that they can say, look what this dummy did. Here's what he did, and you should probably do the same thing. So I think from that perspective, the book was very well designed as a salesman in print for the idea of the strategic movement around retirement taxation, smart retirement.
Now, I respect your savviness as a marketer. And one of the things that I learned from talking to you is that, unlike most people that publish books, is that, if I want a book, I'm going to go to Amazon, right? And I'm going to buy my book on Amazon, probably on a Kindle. Would you recommend someone that is curious about this go to Amazon and buy your book? Sure.
We could go to Amazon right now and look. Let's go see how much is it on Amazon. How much is it on Amazon right now, Paul? Let's look. I'm not sure. I don't think it's $26.99. I don't know actually what it is. Do you want to check?
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
Yeah, let's see how that goes. There'll be some for sale because some of the guys that buy them decide they're going to offload them on Amazon. That's how they pay for my other programs.
All right, here we go. So on Amazon, hardcover from $49.95. That seems pretty reasonable.
I'm still mad it's $49.95. For a long time, it was over $1,000.
Last time I checked, it was like $195 or something.
I'm gonna buy that one for $49.95 to get it back up to like $1,000 or so. But the reality is, I control all distribution. So if somebody wanted to buy the book and they're an advisor, I'm going to drive them to smartretirementbook.com. So I control all distribution, Paul. And Joanne, I don't I don't want those on Amazon. You can find it everywhere. It'll be on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target. You just can't buy it because.
Well, yeah, and the last time I checked, it was something like hundreds of dollars to buy a new copy of the book, which is like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Are you trying not to sell books? Is this the plan?
I'm trying hard not to sell books, and the reason is I want to give the authoritative information as a distributable report or a distributable asset to my advisors, not to Amazon. Amazon's not doing me any good. It's not doing them any good.
Mm-hmm.
So what we want to be able to do is to control the distribution of the book as a messaging tool for advisors.
Perfect. So we just literally an hour ago or 30 minutes ago finished a webinar that you invited us to for your community of smart advisors. Can you tell us a little bit more? First, can you tell us a little bit about who your community of smart advisors are? And then secondly, why did you invite Joanne and me to talk to them?
Oh, that's a great question. My community of folks, I have a program where people buy 8 books a month from me. It's my most used program. I encourage these folks to give 2 books a month out. I give them online resources, training videos, everything that you would expect if you were to hire a very high-end coaching program, but without any cost. It's just all included for purchasing the book. My email system, my email wow system is fantastic. There's videographic assets. There's a lot of tools to get people interested in tax diversification. And the reason I made it so attractive is I do think this is a limited time opportunity. You know, taxes are on sale until they're not, whenever we know it reverts back on 12/31 of 2025. So January 1st of 2026, if people say, well, you know, do you think taxes are going up in the future? That's kind of a dumb question. They're going up in the future. It's just how much they might go beyond that in the future. But you know, it's not an if, it's a certainty. So you know, I wanted to create a program where I can make it really easy for people to get high quality resources that were well thought out, because this is all I've been thinking about for a number of years, and how to take advantage of this political window of opportunity. The reason I specifically wanted to work with Joanne and you, Paul,
I noticed that you said Joanne's name first.
I did on purpose to make it to hurt you, because you see, you know, I don't know if you remember this, but you said on the video, we love the SMART concept and we like Matt. I'm thinking, man,
No, I think we love the SMART concept. We like Matt, and we love Matt's marketing.
Oh, we love the marketing. We love the book, and we like Matt. I'm like, who says that, right?
What I was trying to say was that you're more than just a pretty face. I mean, fair enough.
Oh, yeah. So, you know, what I want is I want people to be cognizant of what Dan taught me, which is that in marketing, you have to be omnipresent. You've got to be everywhere. You got to know who you're marketing to, and then you got to put yourself in a position where you're swirling around them. So you're doing seminars. They're getting referred by people they know. You're in the clubs and community that they're in. You're around them. And today, you know, the big boys, the adults in the room, when they do social media, they do LinkedIn. You know, if you want to go find an ex-girlfriend, go on Facebook. Other than that, it's really not worth doing. I mean, it's not a marketing place. Maybe it's a marketing place for marketers who want to convince people to be marketers. Mm-hmm. But in reality, the big boys and girls, they play on LinkedIn. And they're there to find, and a number of them are there to find information. And I've learned from the two of you that, you know, 41% of all millionaires are on LinkedIn. So, you know, we got an affluent professional audience that's where you want to communicate if you're going to communicate on and in social media. So the reason I brought you two in was because of your innate ability, and you've proven it to me, not only by spending time with me and me looking at your copywriting, which is very good, and your ability to market the message out, which I've looked at very closely. I knew a number of your personal clients before I decided that I want to become your client. And I know their results, not because they're telling me, like everybody says, oh, I'm doing great, I did millions. And then I find out they haven't. But you know, I know all of the marketing organization owners, so I know if it's true or false. And the folks that you're working with are legitimately top producers, and their production has increased as a result of the services you provide. So as a natural, if you mix that information in the smart book and you create a method to distribute the book through social media marketing on LinkedIn with the adults, then ultimately you're getting a great way to utilize the book in a fashion where people actually raise their hand and say, I'd like this information. And that's what great direct response marketing is all about.
With LinkedIn, the great thing is that we like to say we can reach all of those 41%, the 41% millionaires from the seat of our office chair. How many events have you been to where you've actually met a cross-section of viable prospects? And so from the seat of your office chair, you can reach an extraordinary amount of qualified people.
No, and to add to that, Joanne and I have a joke about, what is it, the essential oils lady, right? A lot of our clients, in addition to advisors, we work with business coaches and consultants, and one of the things they're often taught to do is to go to your local chamber of commerce, go network there. And the funny thing about that is that they do, but then they come back and say, yeah, so I went and I was meeting with the essential oils lady, wanted to sell me something. So how do you move beyond the essential oils lady to actually have, your perfect avatar, your perfect audience, whether it's going to a seminar that you put together, which is great, or whether it's simply from the comfort of your home, assembling this audience for yourself.
Well, I'm sorry, Joanne, please go ahead.
I was just going to cap that off and say the key to that is that we're going to start that relationship on LinkedIn and take it off of LinkedIn. And to be realistic, everyone, there's no magical bullet on any social media platform, but relationship building and nurturing trust is always going to come into the equation. It's just how you do that using the tool. And, so we still love to take that relationship building off of LinkedIn. That is one of the keys to the success.
Yeah, and not to muddy this up with some perhaps muddiness, but I'm going to. It's probably true that there's a reasonably large number of people who met on Match.com who ended up happily married. The reality is that the social media platform, the online platform, helped them get offline. And I think that's what you teach. It's not BS, and no one else does that. Everybody wants to make it online. That's not true. There's nothing wrong with using an online resource to start a conversation. Mm-hmm. But if you keep it conversing constantly on online, it's just meaningless chatter. But if you consciously and professionally pivot that offline at the appropriate time and in the appropriate way, now what you have is you have online marketing leading to offline conversations that's leading to real business. And that's the key.
Exactly.
Beautifully said.
And it's a combination. So there's a couple things there. One is that I think that's the biggest, the mirage or the mystery that a lot of people that are online don't get is that, a lot of people we talk to prospects, they're like, well, we're on LinkedIn, but we don't get that much in the way of results. It's like, well, what are you doing? And they're just trying to keep it online, thinking people are going to come find them. Where we very proactively and intentionally encourage them to use it as that first initial tool, but then at the right time, move them to whether it's a Zoom meeting like this, whether it's an in-person meeting. Ultimately, people do business with people, and we have to have a conversation. Now, tools nowadays like Zoom, we've never met in person yet, although we will soon. And so there's a combination to doing it, but ultimately the real question is how do you establish trust, build relationship effectively? And that's where it's all driving towards.
And I think that leads to an interesting conversation. The reason I got on here is because we had a common friend.
Sure.
And that commonality and friendship, that connection there, so to speak, led to us connecting.
Sure.
And so, and that was a strong connection. So that made it easier on YouTube. Yep. Which would not have been easy with me had it not been a strong connection. But you could have still got me, and I'll tell you how. So I'm going to give you guys something I haven't really talked about before with you, but I think it's really important. And it's something that's not from Dan Kennedy, but I spent some time with Robert Cialdini, the author of Influence.
Yeah, one of my favorite books.
It's interesting because I spent time with him because I hired him to come speak to a very small group. He had flown from the Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting with tens of thousands of people in a stadium to a small room in Cleveland with about 65, 70 people, because not everybody always showed up. There was only 80. But it was pretty well attended. But, he gets in there and says, "This is it?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, because we paid him. He's not cheap. And we spent some time, man. We drank a couple beers together and really, really, really liked him. But what I learned from him, from Cialdini, was how the mind actually starts to develop bonds. And one of the things, that definitely does it is something called the signature effect. So, the compliance of people not missing their medical examinations in Europe, where they're socialized medicine that's so great, right? That people think they want. And then all I do is keep paying my paid physician, my executive physician, because when that happens, I'll never be able to get to see a doctor. So I keep bribing him with cash. But the reality is that, they don't show up because they don't have to pay. So the only way they can get them to compliance was horrible. So there was cancellation, not even cancellation, just no show, right? So the signature effect was something. But we talked about something else I never talked about ever before until now, which is, how do you really, if you're communicating with someone cold, what would be the way to do that? Well, number one, if you could share with them a media that was proving or helping to prove your point, it's very helpful. Now, that's not the book, but I've created a sketch video that's pretty effective in about 4 minutes and 30 seconds to give you a general overview. So if we think about, someone responds to something, if we can have a general thing that helps them hear things, see things, and think about things in videographic marketing, which you two are both expert at, it gives them a chance to think things through in general. And then you get on like this. And now it's personal. It's like we just met, right? So we go concept video, personal video. And now what we want to do is create physicality. The reason that people be like, "Matt, why in the world haven't you turned your book into an ebook? I mean, it'd be so much better." No, it wouldn't. And the reason is because of my conversation with Cialdini, which is, that is almost the equivalent of a professional, appropriate physical touch. I've given you information for you to think about it. I've talked to you about it. We've had some commonality of agreement that this might make sense for me. And now in the mail, all of a sudden, here's this book, right? That you sent me with your, "Hey, hope you enjoy this book. Call you in a couple of weeks. We have you scheduled on this day, Paul." And then all of a sudden, here's this physical thing that you can touch. It's real, right? So now we start taking things from this, everything digital world to this now physical world. And then we go from there. We start building a real relationship, but it's a physical token of reality. It's important.
That's awesome. I know Dan Kennedy also talks a lot about sending I forget what's it, the shock and awe package, sending the books and the different things as part of the sales process.
Well, it is kind of funny because Kern, who's, he's a great guy. Frank's a great guy. So, he was the master of online marketing, except for when you think about what he does, he sends a physical newsletter. I mean, he's considered like one of the greatest, if not the greatest online marketer, right? But he doesn't deliver his product as an online product at all. It's sold online, sure, but he gets it offline and physical as quickly as possible. And you know why? Because the retention rate when it becomes a physical product is astronomically higher.
We have a saying around here. We like to activate the U.S. postal system.
Yes. This is one of our secret LinkedIn strategies. Activating.
Not a secret anymore, buddy.
Yeah, I know it's going out. Okay, so finalish question. So Joanne, this question's for you, Joanne. We just wrapped up our very first More Clients, More Fun VIP retreat in Hawaii. this past February.
Ooh, yes.
We're already planning on doing our next More Clients, More Fun VIP retreat in Hawaii this next February 2019. And Joanne and I were, thinking about, okay, well, last time we had Frank Wagner as our special guest. He's with Marshall Goldsmith Stakeholder Center Coaching, the co-founder. And we're thinking, okay, who would be a good kind of, headline guest for us? Who should we do? And you and I both came to the decision that why don't we invite Matt? So first question for you, Joanne, is why Matt? I mean, what's so special about him?
Well, apart from, let's see, test driving Maseratis and Teslas, he would be a really good person to do that with. He'd be really fun, don't you think? Apart from that, we love the Smart brand. We truly love the way that his concepts and the marketing savvy he brings can apply across the board to our coaches, consultants, and advisors. And it's a beautiful melding, if you will, of, taking timeless principles and bring them across industries. It's not just because you're an advisor, you're not just because you're a coach, but really what's the mindset that we all need to have. And his call was likely one of the most popular calls in our community that we've had in the last 3 years.
I don't think it was likely, Joey.
There you go.
It was absolutely the most popular
number
call
one
we've had.
Yes.
Number one.
Now, I want to ask the same question to you, Matt. So, you've just gotten to know us. We've never met in person. Joanne's all right, but I think, really you like me a little bit more.
I do.
Why is it that you're willing to, you're a important, influential guy. You do a lot of, you have friends like Frank Kern and Dan Kennedy and others. What made you decide to come out to Hawaii with us?
Yeah, you guys are real people, man. I mean, I think that, and not only are you trying to do right by your client, you are doing right by your client. And likely you've learned how to do right by your client by doing a lot of stupid things quickly, which is making you really smart, because that's how smart marketers are, become very successful. You try things and you deploy things, and then you honestly tell your client whether they were successful or not successful. And the things that aren't successful, you learn as much as the things that are. And I think that you guys have deployed and pivoted and fixed and tried and tested and are constantly trying to improve. And although it is very cool to, play the role of we're very savvy at automation, which you are, and we're very, we're productively lazy, or some of your other BS.
Ambitiously lazy.
The reality is that the two of you are hardworking folks that put the hours and time in to making sure that your clients are getting the most value. And I respect that. That's why I'm coming, because I respect the two of you for being professional enough to know that you're only as good as the last result of your last client yesterday. And once people forget that, or think that, they've somehow ascended beyond that, they become super not cool to me. So there's a lot of people that are famous marketers. If they said to me, I'll send my private jet and fly you out, I wouldn't go. Now you two, even if you can't pay for me to come, I'm coming because I like you two that much. Hopefully you'll sell it up. I don't have to buy my own ticket, but if I do, I would, because
I'll buy you a beer.
You buy me too. And I only drink Don Julio 1940.
Oh, yes, we know that.
But I will tell you that it's because of your integrity and your care. And I think that's the genuine nature of people is what matters. And if somebody, there's a number of people, and I think this is really important about the people watching. There's a number of people, because I've gone about 3 minutes here, that have dropped off because they find this fluffy. Guess what? The people that are still on the line, those are the people you want to know. Because you know what? If you don't realize that what matters in life is the people you associate and surround yourself with, the process that you build and hold yourself accountable to, you'll never get to the profit. So those guys that hung up that this isn't worth their time because they're busy, they will never hit the level of success that the folks who stuck around till now will, because it's about people, it's about process, and that does lead to profit. And I know that's from the TV show, but the damn guy's spot on. It's right. I mean, he articulated it better than anybody, and he's spot on correct. You know, but it starts with people. You got to surround yourself with the right people.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Matt, for your time today. You are our official third. You know, it's like I keep on getting slack for this. Like, you are our official third guest for the $1 Million Producer Show. And I told that to my last guest, Alex Somkin, who's a mutual friend of ours. I said, "You are the second guest." And he's like, "Second? What? Not the first?" And so hopefully you'll appreciate that we esteem you to be our third guest on the $1 Million Producer Show. Thank you so much.
Well, let me just tell you something. I know both of your first two guests, okay? And I'm still number one, and you can tell them both.
Well, how's this? You'll be number one on the new $1 Billion Producer Show.
Yes. Yes.
Well, thank you, guys. It's been a privilege, and I hope that some folks got some value out of today. And I really appreciate the relationship I have with you.